Hi there, I'm Michelle Cashmore, and in today's video I'll be showing you how I painted this portrait of my cat Tyson. He's painted in acrylic paints on an 11" by 14" Ampersand smooth artist panel. These panels are actually a little too slick and smooth for acrylic paint to stick well, so I applied a couple of layers of gesso just to give it a little bit more tooth before starting to actually paint. And now onto the actual speed painting tutorial itself. I start out by painting my background. I want it darker at the top and lighter at the bottom with a smooth gradient. I'm using an airbrush filled with water to keep the paint wet and blending using a mop brush. Makeup blusher brushes work very well for this. Normally, I like to work from background to foreground, but I decided to work in the cushion first as I knew the fluffiness would make it quite tedious and time consuming to paint. I figured it would be better to get it done and out the way so I could then move on to the more fun parts. I block in the lights and darks in sections and gradually refine the details. It can be quite difficult to keep track of sections like this. I spent a lot of time looking at my reference and took my time. As I progress, I often see areas that are too dark or too light and go back to correct them. One of the great things about acrylics is that it's very easy to fix mistakes or make adjustments. The easiest way I find to deal with complicated areas such as this is to try and look at the abstract shapes that make it up. This helps you to follow the reference as it actually is and not how your mind interprets it to be. The first thing I do when I move on to Tyson is to block in some of the dark areas around his face. Then I start to work on his eye. I almost always start with the eyes of my subject, as I like to make sure those are right from the very beginning. The eyes always draw the viewer's attention, so if there's anything off about them, it's always very noticeable. One thing to note here is that all the white areas on his face aren't actually painted white. It's all shades of light grey and brown. Very rarely should anything be pure white in a painting. Again, I'm painting in my base layers, letting them dry between coats. Once I have a reasonably smooth base down, then I use fine liner brushes to add in the fur detail. Always pay close attention to the overall direction and length of the fur, as well as the fact that it's not uniform. Lots and lots of layers with colour and tone variation is the way to build up depth in fur. Another thing to pay attention to is how dark an area actually is on your reference. It can be very misleading. Using a value finder, or the colour picker in a program like Photoshop, is useful to show the true colour of an area. In this painting, the white fur down his left side is actually very dark grey. Our minds can tell what colour it's supposed to be due to the surrounding colours and tones, but this can also make it difficult to see what the actual colour is. As you can see, the first layers look absolutely terrible, but after adding more layers and details, it becomes much more realistic. Don't be disheartened if your first layers are ugly, they always are in acrylics. Just keep working on it. Here, I'm drawing in the whiskers lightly with a white charcoal pencil to give me a guide when painting. I usually work in sections at a time, finishing or nearly finishing an area before moving on to the next. Some people like to work over the entire painting at once, completing a full layer before moving on to the next. There's no right or wrong way, it's all about what suits you best. Look at how many colours I'm using here for the brown fur, varying from light golden through to brown so dark it's nearly black. Some of the colours are more greyish, others more vibrant. Pay close attention to your subject, they are almost never a flat colour. Shadows, reflections, or even just variations in the fur itself can all change the colour. You can't just make a single colour lighter or darker and expect it to look realistic, unless you're deliberately working in monotone. For his back, because it's further away, I'm not adding as much detail and making it a bit fuzzier. This helps to show depth and gives the impression that his body is further away from the viewer. Adding the whiskers on the other side of his face, using a pencil to draw guidelines same way as before. On to the home stretch now, with just the top of his head and his ears to go. Same as before, I block in a section with the base colours and then build the details and depth up on top of it. Notice how long the hair in his ears is compared to the rest of his fur. I painted the pink inside of his ears, underneath where the hair will go, just to make sure the right colour shows through the fur. As the ear on the left side is in shadow, it's much darker and less saturated in colour than the other ear. Here I made a couple of mistakes with the long hairs above his eye. This shows how forgiving acrylics are, as I just repainted them in the right place and painted out the wrong one. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more and be kept up to date on my latest videos, then please do subscribe. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, where I also post regular work in progress updates of whatever it is I'm currently working on. Hope to see you again soon.